All right, this meeting has begun.
What?
Welcome to the Content Swap podcast. You are joined by Parker and
Aaliyah.
yes, that is us.
Aaliyah. You ever feel like it's weird saying your own name?
Yeah. I mean, it's weird to hear you say my name.
Yeah.
Yeah. Aaliyah.
Oh. I don't like that. I feel like I'm in trouble.
Well, what's going on? What's new? What's happening?
Everything and nothing at the same time.
I hear you. Very tired going into this podcast. Hopefully this whole conversation will energize me. How about you?
Yeah. I think working these long shifts back to back
Yeah.
after a long school week, I'm tired.
Yeah.
I cannot wait to just do nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did not have long shifts. I was playing Return to Monkey Island all day and then watching the new Lord of the Rings show. So not a lot to complain about on my end. I'm just tired. The weather is horrible right now.
But it's also really nice.
Yeah,
I'm enjoying because it's cold and it's rainy, and so it's perfect.
Yeah,
cuddle up and watch a movie weather.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, I have a reasonable excuse on a Saturday to be playing video games and watching TV all day because, yeah.
You don't need an excuse. Do what you want.
Yeah, true.
Especially on a weekend.
I know. No, but I have no excuse for being so tired right now, though. Yeah, we're doing this at 5:45 on Saturday. Yeah. Okay. Well. Yeah. I mean, not much else is new. I mean, yeah, the weather just sucks.
Yeah, I'm literally in my PJs if you're watching on YouTube, so I apologize.
That's funny. I am not. I put gel in my hair for this.
Oh my
this
gosh.
morning,
Yeah.
knowing I was gonna be on camera. I'm like, okay, well, I gotta look good.
Oh, meanwhile, I'm like, I can't be bothered. My feet hurt. I've been standing all day. But no.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
All right. Well, what are we here to do today?
Talk about movies.
Movies.
Yeah.
Just movies.
Yep.
All right.
You're starting.
Oh, yeah, I'm starting. Okay. Sorry. All right. Hi, everyone. My name's Parker, and today I'm here to present a movie called Kid 90. So, Kid 90 is a movie that was made a couple years ago, I believe. I'm not sure exactly when, but
I think it came out in 2021.
Oh, really? Okay. So very recently. It is a very short documentary. It's about 70 minutes, and it's about this woman.
Her name is Soleil Moon Frye.
Thank you. Soleil Moon Frye. She played Punky Brewster in the early 90s.
Well, the show came out in the 80s,
In
84
the 80s,
to 88.
84 to 88.
Yeah.
Okay, my bad. I'm going into this with zero notes, so I'm just gonna freestyle. So she played Punky Brewster in the 80s. And she grew up as a young kid, a teenager really, in the 90s in Hollywood, and she just had a camera with her everywhere she went. So she didn't look at all this footage for years, and so she's just now revisiting all of this footage of basically being a teenager in Hollywood in the 90s and all of the different people that she would hang out with, and who are all the other young actors from the 90s. So it's really interesting to see they interview a lot of people who are not really doing anything Hollywood related now, but they're being interviewed and they're like, oh yeah, I remember that time, and so just kind of takes you through that experience.
It's really cool too because not only did she record all these videos, but she kept her diary. She kept voice messages, voicemails.
Yeah.
And it's who thinks of that? It's who would have thought to do that in that time? And she did, and it's capturing something super cool that we haven't seen before.
Yeah, a lot of the some people were saying we didn't anticipate that the internet was going to exist. We didn't know that that in the future people were gonna have to be like turned on, like in their brain, like just switched on, when there's cameras around. Like back then they were just their authentic selves and they didn't think too much about it. Whereas nowadays it's like, yeah, if you're being filmed, it can pop up on the internet in front of everybody to see within, you know, seconds. So
yeah, it's really cool. It's really like, it's like I want more. Like I want to see more.
Yeah.
It's just like very, like you said, it's like very authentic. Just like these kids that some of them are like these mega stars now.
Yeah. Just like talking. She's like, oh, I met this guy, Johnny Depp. I want him to be my husband.
Like, it's so wild. It's like to think that there are people like her who like was being a teenager and was like, oh yeah, the other day I met a kid named Johnny Depp. And it's like, we know Johnny Depp is this huge star. Right. And like to her, it's just another kid in Hollywood. Yeah. And that's wild.
They got like Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, Soleil. Yeah. How are you?
So you're like a voicemail from Charlie Sheen. Like, what?
Yeah. Wild.
Yeah. Which that's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
But it's just strange. It's such a different world than what we experience.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah. No, it's just really entertaining to watch. It's super short. I mean, yeah. I don't know what else to say about it.
Talk about some of the things in it.
Yeah. I mean, so, you know, she talks about like when she finished up Punky Brewster, then like, you know, as a child, when you're growing up in this industry, you then have this like hit show, but then the show ends. You got to find more work. And she talks about her experience of like when she hit puberty and around like once she hit puberty, she started to develop like really quickly. And all of the roles that she was being offered were, when she was like 13, were like these roles that
it's like the sexy bombshell,
right?
Kind of, yeah.
At the age of 13,
yeah. It's like you're like the roles where it's like sex appeal, basically.
Right. Yeah. So she talks a lot about that experience and what that was like, and how she felt really insecure with her body. And so eventually...
And also just the way people treated her, like men grabbing her in ways that were just really inappropriate.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, ultimately she ended up getting like a breast reduction surgery. So then she felt more comfortable in her body. I guess she did like a bunch of interviews and was like on magazine covers back then for like speaking up about that and what her experience has been like. I really had no idea about any of that, but like looking at it, you know, totally makes sense, given like... how she was being treated and like being that young and basically having to mature into an adult. Well, one guy that got interviewed that used to be like a child actor was like, when we were on Saved by the Bell, the director, like as soon as we walked into the room, the director would be like, once you walk through that door, you're an adult. You have to like make adult decisions. And like, that's wild.
It's really like brave of her too to be that young and be like speaking out and like recognize that she has a platform to like talk about it and talk about these like things that are happening to her and why she like did what she did. Like I feel like that's unique. Like that doesn't happen that often. Because especially as a woman in Hollywood, you know, there's always a fear of like not being rehired, not having a job because you spoke out about something. And so like for her to be that young and be super confident to do that is amazing.
100%. And then like as they get older, they're like, I think it was her and maybe some other people were like part of some like say no to drugs campaign,
like a dare thing.
Yeah, like a dare thing, like say no to drugs. 90s, drugs aren't cool.
90s was like dare, like prime time before all that research came out being like dare literally has the opposite effect.
I remember I remember in like 5th grade when they taught us about like drugs and whatnot.
It's like the police officers come to your school. Did they do that for you?
We didn't. No, we had videos that we watched.
So we had the videos. We had DARE videos, but we also had police officers come with, and sometimes they'd bring like the dog, like the drug dog.
Oh, we did not
like,
have that.
Don't do drugs. Blah, blah, blah.
Wow.
And you're just like, what?
Yeah, we had some videos. We had one that had like Alf and like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were in it. It was like all these like cartoon characters from the early 90s, late 80s.
Interesting.
That were like, say no to drugs, kids. And it was like a whole video.
That's interesting.
And there's like a kid at one point who's like, because his older brother's like struggling with like doing drugs and whatnot. And the kid's like, oh, like, I don't know what's wrong with him, but like he likes this. Should I do it too?
Oh, no.
And then Alf is like, wrong, don't do that. Yeah. It's like Alf. But like
gosh.
that was what we watched.
Yeah.
You know, I mean that was like 2005 for me. But we still had that. Yeah, we had that. We had, you know, like all these just. I don't know. I think there was like a baseball player was in one of them, but he was like a time traveler, and he like
what the things
he like took these kids.
The things they did to really get this message across of not to do drugs.
Yeah,
like we watched some sort of like animated say no to drugs thing, but it was like a cigarette or like a blunt or something like that. That was like It was like a talking animated thing, and it was like. Yeah, talking about it or whatever, and we learned about peer pressure and like all that kind of stuff. And if someone offers you something, don't do it and whatever.
Yeah, we watched a lot of videos. We had that. There was another one where it was like 2 guys. One guy was interviewing the other, and one of the guys' name was Nico, and he was smoking a cigarette the whole time. And the other guy, it was like they were doing a debate. And so Nico was like talking about like why cigarettes are cool, and the other guy was this like straight-laced dude who's like, no, it's not cool. 4.5 minutes of your life you lose for every cigarette that you smoke. And Nico's like, why do you think they call me Nico? I like nicotine. Woo.
I'm dead. I didn't even put that together.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
I would love to go back and rewatch all those things because they were. I feel like we watched some like 80s one. Like it felt like it was made in the 80s.
I mean, what does it say though that I to this day like remember all of that stuff?
They're memorable.
Yeah.
They are memorable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there's plenty of research that says how crap DARE is. So we need something better.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, I don't know how to comment on that and give like a solution because I don't really have one.
I also don't have one. That's out of my wheelhouse.
But in the Kid 90 documentary, they talk about how like Soleil Moon Frye, was one of those kids that was like, you know, pushing that message, like that anti-drug message. But then they all had a certain age and they all just like started partying and doing drugs. And she was like, I spend all day telling people not to do this, but now I just want to do it. And it's like, oh my gosh. Yeah. So seeing like what that experience was like for these kids that are like, they all know each other. There's a very small group of them because there's not that many like young people that age in Hollywood at that time, and they all just know each other and are just partying all the time. It's just wild. Yeah. Yep.
One of the like really sad things that I feel like is in the documentary quite a bit is like the actors or musicians that like took their own lives, like that really struggled in Hollywood. And something Soleil was like thinking about as she was reviewing all this is like how now, like looking back, she saw those like messages asking for help, or just like she saw those who were struggling within her own like recordings and interactions with them. But at the time, you know, you're young, you're not
you don't
fully
know.
Aware of everything. I mean, even as an adult, you can miss things. So that was a really interesting thing. And it's always like me and my mom have conversations about this all the time of just like growing up as a child in Hollywood, like what context best protects a child as they go through the industry versus what context kind of leads to these child actors who are suffering from like mental illness and things like that because of what they've experienced as a child actor. And it's like, is there things that buffer it? Like, because it's like, oh, well, like if you have a parent who's like very present, who's like making sure nothing like, you know, wild is going on or whatever. But like there are actors who have parents that are, I'm sure, like very, you know, invested in their child, but like they might still, you know, have some sort of experience that's just like really harmful. I don't know. It's just, I don't know. It's really interesting. It's like, how do you just like protect a child? And at some point when they become a teenager, they're a teenager. They're going to do things on their own now. And as a parent, you can't really like be there with them all the time. You can't, you know,
right.
And you can't also shelter them. You can't be like, you can't go to this party because like they need to experience life.
Right.
So it's just interesting.
Legally, if you're a minor working in Hollywood, you have to have your parent with you on set. Like you have to have a guardian with you on set.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. I mean, as we've seen from a ton of child stars, parents can also be the source of the problem.
Right. Did you see Honey Boy?
Yeah, I watched it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the Shia LaBeouf, like kind of autobiographical, but kind of not. But yes, definitely.
Yeah. That Jeanette McCurdy book I just bought that I've been like dying to read. That's her situation as like a mother who just was like really toxic, and then she's also experiencing these like really harmful things at work, and it's just all building up. But yeah, I guess it's just like, even if you have a parent that's not toxic, that's, you know, there as you're a child, when you do become, you know, 18 or whatever, and you're able to kind of venture out into like the world of Hollywood on your own.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what protects you.
I mean, how many people were child actors that you can think of? How many people were child actors that ended up like okay and still work in the industry?
I mean, you have like,
I can think of Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and that's all I can think of.
I'm thinking of like Disney Channel stars. Like, I feel like,
I mean, Disney, like Joseph Gordon-Levitt was on Angels in the Outfield.
Oh my gosh, that movie. I haven't seen that in so long. I mean, I feel like for the most part, Hilary Duff was like pretty okay. Maybe there was a moment of like,
all right,
maybe some mental health things. I don't know. I don't remember it. But like, I feel like we didn't hear
think
about
she
her
had,
too
like,
often.
A Britney Spears moment?
No. At least not to that extent. But maybe like
Hilary Duff seems to be doing pretty okay right now.
Yeah. I mean, definitely right now. I was like trying to think of like back in the day, was there like some sort of headline of like
Hilary Duff?
Yeah, I don't know, but I don't think so. But I think for the most part, she was pretty okay.
Yeah, she's cool in my book.
Yeah, I mean, Vanessa Hudgens is doing all right.
Yeah, but she wasn't like that young when she started.
Well, she was on Barney.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Her and Selena Gomez are on Barney.
Okay.
Oh wait, no. I take that back. It was Demi Lovato and Selena Gomez that was on Barney.
Okay.
So I don't know, but I guess Vanessa Hudgens wasn't.
What do you know about like the Mickey Mouse Club?
Okay. You got like your Christina Aguilera.
There Britney Spears, Justin Timberlake.
Yeah.
I think Dane Cook was on that.
Really?
Yeah. Pretty sure.
Seems so random.
Yeah. I might have to look that one up, but that might be
Club?
Factual.
I don't know. Who else was on there? I literally just know Britney, Justin,
some kids that
Christina.
ended up being super talented.
Yeah. But I mean, Justin Timberlake is okay.
Yeah.
Christina Aguilera is okay.
Yeah, that true.
Yeah.
So what, we got like what, a 20% success rate?
I don't know. But I learned
not great.
I learned some wild things about boy bands and like NSYNC and everything. Not like just like problematic things for these boys who were like really young. Like,
I mean, I can imagine.
The history of boy bands is like very dark. Listen to Dark History podcast.
Oh.
You can learn about it because that's where I learned all of that. But it's wild.
I mean, the concept of these boy bands, I mean, they're these young dudes. It's not like, it's completely different than like, you know, some guys that just knew each other and said, let's make a band. Like,
yeah.
Like NSYNC and Backstreet Boys, that's like, you know, producers finding them and putting them together and saying, I want to put together a boy band.
Yeah.
And having kids audition.
Yeah.
And then just like putting them all together and having them sing songs.
Yeah.
Like that's,
Yeah.
I
But
mean,
like the producer, I guess producer, he was real shady. Manager maybe, I don't know, real shady, just like some like sexual abuse things
what?
potentially happening.
Which band?
Literally all the he like ran like all the boy bands. Yeah.
Oh. I can't confirm nor deny any of this because I don't know.
Yeah.
But
I might have my details
shoot.
slightly messed up, but that was like essentially that episode of that podcast was about that. This man who like put together all the boy bands, like competitor boy bands. So like, like
Yeah.
NSYNC or Backstreet Boys.
Right.
Like he was in control of both.
Dang.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess all I will say is if you were listening to this and you think that is an interesting story thread to follow up on, go look it up yourself because
Yes.
we could be getting it totally wrong.
We could be. Don't hold it to us. But anyways, that's just a conversation that I always think about because it's like, you want to protect youth who are
I mean, you
in
really
the industry.
you want to protect everybody, but youth are the most like vulnerable.
Yeah. And so that just always interests me as to like how does one do that.
Would you put our kids?
See, here's the thing.
Oh.
Like if our child was really passionate about acting, I don't want to discourage it. I don't want to be like, no, you can't do it. But I would definitely be one of those parents that's like, I will be there like all the time.
Yeah.
Like nothing can happen without being run by me first.
Right.
Because I would be scared. Like I don't want anyone alone with my child. Like I need to be there. And I think where the hard part for me would be is that when they become, 18, let's say they're successful in the business, that scares me because it's like, you're able to like make adult decisions. Hopefully I've raised you well to like be able to do that in the best way possible. But also I need to let you live your life. I can't manage you. I can't micromanage you. I can't keep you from like hanging out with your friends or going here or whatever. So I think that would be really hard for me.
Yeah, I same. I mean, I lean towards like the like I wouldn't side, but like
what if they're just
if they're super passionate, like can we do theater first?
Is theater any
theater
better?
seems chiller. I don't know. Yeah,
I feel like theater's intense.
Who knows? Because I mean, people seem much more aware of this stuff these days, and who knows, like how much more aware, or or like just kind of well put together things will be in the future. Mm-hmm. Who knows?
Yeah,
it's kind of like across that bridge
when you get
if
there.
you get there. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
it's a lot to think about.
It's like open-minded, but also cautious.
Yeah. Yikes.
Yeah.
I don't want to like overpower you talking about the movie.
I mean, what else is there to say?
Another thing I want to say about the movie that just like I enjoy is she was like connected to not even just like Hollywood,
everyone.
But just like all these like cool teenagers in different kind of like areas of entertainment. I don't know if that's the best way to put it, but
you called her the Forrest Gump of 90s Hollywood.
I did. I was like, she's literally the Forrest Gump of like Hollywood of the 90s.
Of like that era.
Yeah, because like she was like all these really cool things that were coming out of the 90s. Somehow she was there. Because so at some point when she's a teenager, she's going to college, she decides to go to New York.
Mm-hmm.
And I had just like a while ago, it was a few months back, I watched this whole documentary, also on Hulu, about skate culture and the tie between skate culture and hip hop. And these kids who came out of New York and like got tied with all these rappers, was like in the nightclubs. They're these like amazing skateboarders. So they have like, all this like acknowledgement over their skateboarding. And it was just like about this group of kids who just like fell into that. And then it turns out Soleil was there.
Yeah.
And like I didn't see it. So those kids who I'm talking about, they ended up in a movie called
Ooh.
Kids.
Oh, was it called Kids?
Yeah, because it's on my like to watch list. Because I really want to see it. But yeah, they were in a movie called Kids. But yeah, she like became really close friends with all of them. That was like her crew in New York. And I was like, homegirls everywhere. Like all these cool people that I didn't know were connected are all connected.
Yeah.
And that's wild.
And there's like some actors that you see nowadays that you just like, you know, they've been around for a while. You're not really sure how long. It's like, oh, she was hanging out with them.
Yeah.
And they've been in Hollywood since way back then. It's like, oh, I had no idea. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, she's pretty cool.
Yeah.
What a cool experience. What a cool life. Like, I mean, I'm sure it had its like downfalls. Like, obviously, we just talked about like
Yeah.
the way she was treated.
Way she was
she went through-
treated, her
yeah.
friends struggling with addiction,
Yeah.
people
around her dying that she was really close to.
Yep.
Yeah, but it's just like, wow, what a trip. And the fact that she has all of this documented just like
Yeah.
blows my mind.
Yeah.
That's wild. It's like a time capsule,
Yeah.
you know?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's like 70 minutes, but it's very. Some of the clips are like very quick, and there's just like a lot of them, and it's like, dang. So it's like it's dense. This movie is just very full of footage.
Yeah.
So I mean, there is a lot in 70 minutes.
And I'm sure that's like not even all of it. That's just select pieces, you
Right.
know?
Right.
That's wild. Well, in terms of like facts, I don't really have any facts, but I wanted to just clarify. So we talked about how Punky Brewster came out in the 80s, 84 to 88. They tried to do a reboot in 2021. They aired a whole season, but then it got canceled. They just didn't have the viewers.
So they like actually
Yeah,
aired a
yeah,
season?
they aired a season,
What's
but it got
Punky
canceled.
Brewster's whole thing supposed to be?
So Punky Brewster, I literally looked it up because I didn't watch Punky Brewster. That was a bit before my time.
Yeah, same.
But Punky Brewster was basically like a little girl who was like abandoned by her parents and gets taken in by this like man and his dog. And I guess just like this man. And then it was like, I didn't look too deep into it, but there's like this. So like she gets taken in by this man and then he has a dog. But then it looks like there's like a black family that also like is like, I don't know if they're neighbors or what, like also is a part of the show. And I think they like help raise her or something like that. I don't know. But
So she's just a girl who doesn't have parents who
Yeah,
gets
she's like
picked up
Annie.
by people, and okay.
yeah.
All right. She's not like Matilda, or like she doesn't really have like a gimmick or anything.
I mean,
she's
I'm
not
sure
like
there's-
secretly a witch or
No.
has psychic powers.
I don't think it's like that. I'm sure she's just like, I'm sure it's like a Full House kind of situation, you know? Like she's just
Okay.
like this cute, spunky little kid that, you know, is fun.
Punky Brewster.
Punky Brewster.
What a
Yeah.
name.
Yeah. The only other thing I wrote down was, there are clips of Leonardo DiCaprio, but he doesn't get interviewed. However, it turns out he's a producer of the movie.
Oh, that's cool.
So he was a part of it in some way. I mean, you also see those little clips of him, but
Nice.
yeah. So,
Huh.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Charlie Sheen, there had to be footage of Charlie Sheen, but he was like not really shown much at all.
I mean,
there
it
was, like, some
quite
voicemails.
questionable. It
Yeah.
was quite questionable.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So basically, in the movie, she talks about how she lost her virginity. She never says, I lost my virginity to Charlie Sheen. She keeps
Right.
going,
It's not
the person I lost
explicit.
my virginity to,
Yeah.
and then it's a clip of Charlie Sheen.
Yeah, it's
it's
like-
like a voicemail of Charlie Sheen, or like a picture, or like one of the like people interviewing or whatever talks about.
It's like he was 29.
Yeah, it talks
She
about.
might have been like, I don't know, 17 or something.
Yeah. So suspicious.
Suspicious, yeah.
Yeah.
Sus.
But
Suspicious.
I mean, it seemed like she had a good experience with him,
Yeah.
even though
yeah.
it's quite questionable.
I mean,
but,
he's grown to be quite questionable, for sure.
yeah. But
I haven't even heard anything about Charlie Sheen in the last like 10 years.
well, like the last time I heard about him, he was like in jail.
Oh, I
Right?
I have no idea.
I don't know if he ever got out because that's when they took him off 2.5 Men.
Well, I remember he did that interview where he was just like, I've got a problem and I do this many drugs.
Yeah.
And it's like, whoa. But then he started doing like live shows and calling himself a warlock and all of this stuff. And
Oh my gosh.
I think his drug problem just became like way worse. And he was also like the highest paid TV actor at the time. He was getting paid like
Yeah.
$1.5 million or something
Per episode?
per episode.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
Something like that.
That seems wild.
It was, yeah, he was getting paid a lot.
Oh my gosh. I hope he's doing well now.
Yeah, I mean,
that's really sad.
I hope everyone is doing well.
I know. Ugh, it's so sad. It makes me so sad. Like drugs.
Don't do drugs. This is what they'll show you in 5th grade.
It's tough to watch someone just get lost in it. And
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
we want to help you, but like it's so hard to help somebody unless they're ready to like do it themselves.
Yeah.
And like even after that, you go through rehab and everything, and I'm sure it's a constant battle.
Oh yeah.
Even with like alcohol, like
Yeah.
I know I've heard of so many people who like still have to be careful with, even though they've been sober for 20 plus years, still have to be careful, and that's a tough life.
Yeah. I mean, it's a never-ending
Battle.
Yeah.
I know. Oh. Well, I don't mean to end that on a bummer.
Well,
Anyway.
there is a through line.
Yeah.
We'll talk about some of that in our next movie, actually. But I mean, in terms of this movie, I mean, yeah, I recommend it. It's really interesting to watch, especially if you kind of grew up during that time. Check it out, Kid 90 on Hulu. Anything else you would like to say about it?
Nope.
All right, cool. Yeah, I am done.
Awesome.
Meeting adjourned.
All right.
Intermission time.
Oh my God, why do you always say intermission?
Pow.
This is when we need a sponsor.
Parkerulia content swap. We'll be back after these short messages.
I wish we had sponsors.
Did you know?
Anyway.
Okay, fine.
So I was assigned Jay and Silent Bob.
Strike back.
Yes. I was like, did I have their names flipped? Jay and Silent Bob strike
Silent
back.
Bob and Jay.
I literally was like Silent Jay and Bob. But yes, so that's what I watched, and that movie was a trip. A whole trip. So basically, we meet these two characters, Jay and Silent Bob.
Real quick, came out in 2001. I feel like that's so important.
Yes.
Yeah.
So basically the movie starts where we see these two kids, and their moms leave them out in front of a convenience store. And this becomes like they grow up together. We jump from that point to when they're adults, and we see that they've grown up together. They're still hanging outside of this convenience store. It's what they do. And they're, these like stoners just like messing with whoever's at the convenience store. The people who work at the convenience store are like, oh, they're such a nuisance. But what happens is they find out that there's a movie being made of these comic book characters who are based on them. What are the comic book characters called?
Blunt Man and Chronic.
Yes. So there's a Blunt Man and Chronic movie being made, and they're like, what the heck? We didn't know about this. So they go on the internet, and they look up basically like a Reddit thread.
Yeah. It's like moviepoopshoot.com or something.
They look to see what people are saying about this movie that's being made about them. And people are trashing the comics, trashing the movie. They're like, Jay and Silent Bob are the worst. They suck.
Yeah, they're like
dumb.
bad characters.
Yeah,
they're not funny. They can't carry their own movie.
Yeah. And so Jay and Silent Bob are like, what? Like, we need to go to Hollywood and stop this. Like, put a stop to the movie. We don't want the movie being made. Like, they're not portraying us well. Like, we're better.
Yeah.
We're not these characters, whatever.
They're going to be like Oh. Because Silent Bob does not talk at all. That's this whole thing. And he's played by Kevin Smith, who directed the movie as well and wrote it. But so Jay is the one that does all the talking, and he's very profane. Apparently there's like over 200 F-bombs in this movie. But yeah, so Jay is like, oh, I'm going to be like hooking up with a girl, and she's going to be like, oh, what are your names? Jay and Silent Bob? Oh, I heard on the internet that you two suck. And then she's not going to want to hook up with him. Like, that's his whole reasoning in his head. Yeah. And he's like, we got to go stop this movie from being made.
Yes. So they embark on a journey to Hollywood in order to get this movie stopped. And along the way, they run into a bunch of problems. They meet a bunch of people. They're trying to like hitchhike their way there. And we run into some interesting people. And so, yeah, but like the best thing about this movie is it's purposefully throwing in all these like references to pieces of content that we know very well, like Scooby-Doo, Good Will Hunting. You have like Ben Affleck playing a dude who, and then that his character talks about Ben Affleck, but Ben Affleck also plays Ben Affleck.
Yeah.
So like it's just wild and it's so funny, and there's so many great cameos within the movie. So let me talk about. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Well, there's a scene. They eventually get to Hollywood at one point, and there's a scene where they end up as extras on this set, on like a Miramax set, and all we know is that like, oh, you know, Matt Damon and Ben Affleck's newest movie, and we see Matt Damon and Ben Affleck getting ready for the shot, and they're talking. We don't know what the movie is, and then the director's like, all right, Good Will Hunting 2, hunting season.
But it's fantastic. This is my favorite part of the whole freaking movie. One, because I am ride or die for Good Will Hunting. I love that movie. It's one of my favorites, in my top 5. But the scene is an exact replica of the first Good Will Hunting, where they're like in that bar talking to that one dude who's like, you know, I studied blah, 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 and I read blah, blah. Right. And then like Matt Damon's like, you have no original thought in your head. Yeah. It's literally that. And it has that dude. It has the same dude
in it. Yeah.
It's so funny.
The guy's like, oh yeah, I've read books that you haven't even read yet.
It's so funny. It cracks me up. I love that scene. I like need to rewatch that scene because it's just hilarious.
So part of the reason why I even picked this movie was because I knew you loved Good Will Hunting, and I knew that scene was in this movie.
Yeah.
And I knew you would love that.
Yes.
That's like the whole reason this movie has been on my list this whole time.
It honestly, it referenced so many of my favorite movies. It had a Scream reference, a whole Scream scene. I love Scream.
I mean, Carrie Fisher and Mark Hamill are in it at one point.
Yeah, there was a lot of Star Wars
references. Batman and Robin references. Chris Rock
and Jamie Kennedy.
George Carlin was in it.
Who else? Will
Jason
Ferrell's in
Biggs,
it.
James Vanderbeek. Will Ferrell, yeah. Will Ferrell's character, his name is, he's like a federal wildlife marshal.
Yeah.
And his character's name is Marshall Willenholly. And I saw in the trivia that his character was named after the characters from Land of the Lost, which he ended up actually doing like a Land of the Lost remake movie later on in his career. But apparently the main characters' names in Land of the Lost are Marshall, Will, and Holly. So the name of the character is Marshall, Will, and Holly. Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, it's great. And then another thing that kind of happens throughout the movie is it's a lot of breaking the fourth wall. A lot of like saying a joke, looking directly into the camera because like, you know, that's what it is.
Right. Some of it's a little too on the nose.
Yeah. I liked it though. Because it's like the movie is not supposed to be taken seriously.
That's true. That is
true. So it makes it like, of course this would be in here.
Right.
Like, you know, they do it a few times though. maybe they could do it a little less.
Yeah, I think maybe like once or twice less, but like, it's fine.
Yeah. Oh, another cameo. Tracy Morgan's in this.
Tracy
as well.
Morgan's in this. So many people are in this movie.
So many.
Eliza Dushku.
Yeah. Oh, the girl who was the one who was being accused of killing her husband in Legally Blonde. I forget her real name. The blonde girl.
Oh.
Who I said, I like her face.
Oh, yeah. I saw her name in the credits, and I was like, oh, I recognize that name.
Yeah. I don't remember. But it's the woman from Legally Blonde who like was being accused of killing her husband when she did it. The instructor. Yeah. The fitness instructor.
They have like a whole Charlie's Angels like scene where these girls are like flipping around lasers.
But it's so funny because you know what the tropes are. Like before that scene even happened, I was like, oh yes, here we go. A flip across the lasers. And then they did it. Yeah. And I was like, man, Hollywood's so predictable.
Yeah. But it's like, it's like this movie is supposed to be predictable in so many ways. Like,
because you know the tropes. You know the tropes. You know the movies.
It's just indulgent. It's supposed to just be having fun, making references to Hollywood. But what I also really like about this movie is that it's kind of like a meta commentary on the landscape of the industry at that time. But it's also like this movie finds a way to say like a lot about a lot of different topics, like the internet. What like at the very beginning of the movie, I think it's either Ben Affleck or somebody else saying like, oh, like the internet is just meant for like anonymously trashing other people. And they're saying that in 2001.
And it still holds up.
That's right. And it's like, we talk poorly about like Twitter and Reddit where people are now doing that. But like, those are people have always been doing that. It's just now they have like a platform to do it, which I just think is super, super, super interesting to look at, just from like a, I don't know, cultural anthropology.
But like, I guess in the sense of, I mean,
perspective.
I always wonder, like, is it bad to have these platforms, right, where people can like express what they feel? Obviously, in certain situations, it's like a very problematic thing. However, I do think, like if we're talking, it's Hollywood specific. So movies come out, show comes out, people say how they feel about it, right? I'm always not quick to be like, oh my gosh, people are crazy on the internet. They're saying all these things. Again, depending on the circumstance, if it's like something that's like rooted in racism, sexism, that sort of thing, obviously it's very problematic. But if someone's expressing like what they don't like about something that has nothing to do with that kind of thing, then I'm like, we want criticism, because without criticism, we'll never develop.
Yeah. But I mean, I think the movie kind of does make a point at like at the end of the movie, they end up like stopping the movie from getting made, and they're like, what are we going to do about all these people talking bad about us on the internet? And they're like, well, I mean, the only thing you could do is show up at all their houses and like beat them up. And that's what they decide to do. Yeah. But like the first couple of people whose houses they show up to are like these preteen kids and they start beating up these kids, which we do not condone. But in the context of the movie, it's like, ooh, but like, it's pretty, I mean, it's funny.
Yeah.
But like there is a point there of like, sometimes you see these like ignorant things or like really hateful things on the internet or like in the comment section somewhere, and it like the internet makes all voices kind of sound like equivalent and the same, and you don't think about necessarily like maybe the person behind this statement is like an 11-year-old or a 12-year-old who
it's just typing things.
Right.
Just putting
just
things
typing
out.
things. Yeah. And then not thinking about it. And then just they type it, they forget it, and it's like, it's gone. But you read it later and it's like, I hate the internet. Like,
that's why like people who put out work can't look at those things. Like so many stars, are like, I don't look at reviews. I don't look at any of that because like my mental health.
I watched this YouTube video recently. I don't know why I watched this, but it was Matt Smith. He's a British actor. He's in the House of the Dragon Game of Thrones spinoff show, and he was also I mean he he was Doctor Who like 10 years ago, but he was also in Morbius.
Yeah.
And so he was being interviewed, and the interviewer asked him about like the "It's Morbin Time" meme, and he was like, "Oh yeah, it's a meme, right? Like I haven't even thought, like I don't really know too much about it because I'm not on the internet." And I was just like, "Dang,
you have
he's
to.
not on the internet.
That's the only way to protect yourself.
I know.
To protect your well-being."
And what does it say about me that I'm on the internet all the time?
I'm telling you, I don't have really any like social media on my phone, and it's nice. I don't think about any of that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's real nice.
I mean, I've just learned to really value social media less. Like I only talk to like maybe 4 different groups of people on Instagram, and that's like it.
Yeah.
People don't really post that much, and if they do, and it's like, hey, that's a nice picture of them, then you like it, and like that's kind of the extent of it.
Yeah. I like now, I don't reach for like my first thing is like, I'm bored. It's not, let me scroll through my phone. It's like, I usually pick up a book. Like when I go to class early, because I always get there like about an hour early, and I sit outside and I just read, and it's like so nice. I'm not like over here trying to check my email or trying to check like, social media or whatever. And it's just, now that's becoming a habit. And I like that I'm building that habit of like, couldn't care less where my phone is. But at the same time, that's also a downfall because I do feel very out of touch with like what's happening in like the world because I don't watch the news.
Right.
And so like my source of the news is through social media, through online platforms. And so I do feel a bit disconnected, which I don't think is always the best thing.
Well, yeah, to my counterpoint on that would be like Instagram used to be kind of like my automatic behavior go-to when I would open up my phone and I was bored. I'd go straight to Instagram. And I eventually was able to kind of wean off of that.
Yeah.
But instead, the news became the replacement.
And that's not,
and I'm very in tune with everything that's going on. But I read a study that like people who are obsessively checking the news have higher rates of anxiety, which makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
That's
why which is so bad. Like I don't scroll through a lot of like news things because like I will be depressed like every single day.
I think it's important to have the ability to disconnect from the news from time to time. I mean, it's good to stay up to speed on certain things. Yeah. But certainly, like, for me, I'd rather be checking the news in the morning once during breakfast or something. Like I'm reading the newspaper and have that be it. And that's it, and it's done, and I don't look at it for the rest of the day. Yeah. But I'm like every time I pick up my phone, and if I pick up my phone with the intention of doing something, and I finish that thing, and I'm still on my phone, I will probably check the news. Or if I pick up my phone and I have no reason to be picking up my phone, I'm gonna check the news.
So, I just wait for you or like my parents to tell me what's been going on. Like somebody will say something because that's just the way we are, like humans are. We like are like, hey, did you see this in the news? Like, what do you think? So you should just wait for someone to tell me what happens. But it's definitely, it can be really hard to like figure out when to engage and when you need to step away. Like especially like when we were in like the midst of the pandemic and everything with George Floyd happened, I like felt obligated. I not even obligated. Like I wanted to know what was going on so that I could be a part, like, protests and things like that, because I wanted to be a part of it. But at the same time, it's such a traumatic thing that like Black people have to experience that I was like, my mental health was terrible. But it's like, okay, I step away. Now I feel bad because like this is an important moment and like I need to be out there, like whatever. And it's this weird thing of like, when do you stay in it? When do you get out of it? What's okay, what's not okay. And I had to like really work through that through therapy because I was all over the place. I was like crying every day. It was a mess. But yeah, it's okay to step away from it, because like you have to protect yourself as well, and you can't do the important work if you're not healthy. So I had to like learn to be okay with that.
Dang. Sorry.
I didn't mean to drop. I feel like I keep like diving into the problematic.
Watching Kid 90 and Jay and Silent Bob, we end up talking about like, don't do drugs and stay off the internet, kids.
I know. But yeah.
Well, I was gonna to kind of bring it back to the movie. I was gonna talk about how the through line of what you were saying earlier. Well, actually, sorry, to make sure we don't like just abruptly end on that last piece. Like, yeah, the internet is a powerful tool. Be careful with it.
Yeah.
Be responsible.
Mm-hmm. And protect your own well-being.
Yes, protect your own well-being.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
So, back on what I was saying. So, like the Kid 90, they're talking about like, oh yeah, don't do drugs, yada yada yada. And then we're watching Jay and Silent Bob, which is like they're like smoking weed all the time and like
it's a stoner like film.
It's like a stoner flick, yeah. And which is just kind of like a very funny kind of like juxtaposition, yeah. Yeah. But apparently I was reading in the trivia, so Jason Mewes, the guy that plays Jay, apparently like they had, for filming this movie was very stressful for Kevin Smith, because Jason Mewes was like on a bunch of different drugs at the time and would drink heavily after their days on set, and was just like really struggling with addiction.
Yeah.
To the point where like Kevin Smith almost just shut the whole thing down.
Yeah.
And when by the time like they finished the movie, like Kevin invited Jason to come live with his family to kind of help him get back on his feet, and then Jason ended up like stealing money from Kevin to buy heroin, and then
oh my gosh,
like Kevin basically told him like, you're going to rehab and you're getting clean, or else I'm never talking to you again. And then like that was it. Mm-hmm. He went and he got clean, and he's good now.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was that was going on behind the scenes in this, and I just thought that was like really. We were talking so much about that earlier, and I'm like, oh, like, don't think that we're not done with this topic, or don't think that we are done with this topic, because we're not.
Yeah. Is he in anything else?
I mostly know Jason Mewes from playing Jay and anything that Jay and Silent Bob are in, which is a good segue into talking about Kevin Smith's movies as a whole. Have you seen much of Kevin Smith's movies?
What are his movies?
Well, so Kevin Smith made Clerks. Have you heard of Clerks?
I've heard of it.
Clerks 2, Clerks 3.
No, there's multiple.
Yeah, they just made Clerks 3.
Oh, gotcha. No, I'm in. Okay,
so Kevin Smith has his own like movie universe called the Askewniverse, and it's I think it's Clerks 1, Mallrats, Chasing Amy, Dogma, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, Clerks 2, Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, and Clerks 3. I think that's it. I think that's the whole universe. Jay and Silent Bob are in all of those movies.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so Clerks was the first one to come out, and it's about those two guys who are working at the convenience store.
Oh.
And like Jay and Silent Bob are like background characters, and then like Chasing Amy is about Ben Affleck's character, the one that like writes comic books and like helped make the Blunt Man and Chronic comic book. Like his character's name is like Holden McNeil. In that movie, he is like in love with this girl who's actually a lesbian.
I feel like I've seen Chasing Amy, but I don't remember.
Okay, but
yeah, it's very familiar.
Yeah, and he like makes a reference to that in this movie. But like again, Jay and Silent Bob are in that movie too. And like Jay and Silent Bob just existed as these like background stoner characters in all of his movies, and it's like a chance for Kevin Smith to be in his own movie and not have to say anything. So they were just always there. And so this was the first time like Jay and Silent Bob got to like be in their own movie. So like, yeah, Jason Lee, Ben Affleck, the two Clerk guys, like they were all, and even Ben Affleck and Matt Damon were both in Dogma as well. They played like angels. That movie's wild.
You were telling me about that movie.
Yeah, it was very like controversial when it came out too, because it's all about like heaven and hell and demons and angels and stuff. But it's also kind of like a comedy. It's wild, and Jay and Silent Bob are in it. So yeah, he's just got this own like movie universe. So I was a little worried about that, like going into this movie, if like, because I technically haven't seen like all of those movies.
Yeah.
But I've seen like a good amount of them. But yeah, so I was worried that like you not having that background knowledge was going to, like make this movie not as funny. But no, like
I was cracking up.
Yeah, you picked up on like, what was the point of everything. Thankfully the point of like Jay and Silent Bob is just very simple. Like they're just like two stoner characters, and they just get up to some crazy hijinks, and then the movie just makes tons of different references to Hollywood and all this different stuff. So it all works out.
Yeah, I just hit my head on the back of that, but
yeah,
no, it was great. I would recommend it to I'd recommend it to anyone.
Yeah, I'd recommend it. Like it's what makes it so interesting is that it's like, you think about like scary movie, just all the scary movies, and like how those are a bunch of like references to a bunch of different scary movies and whatnot.
Yeah.
And this is kind of like doing that, but just kind of across a bunch of different movies.
Yeah, it's like a giant parody of a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, but it's fun. It's like, it's commenting on the industry, but then it's also like, again, like I said, like it's kind of like saying a lot about a lot of things, but also just being fun and entertaining and like mindless at the same time. So I was very impressed by it. And like, oh, this movie's just fun with a ton of cameos, but it's also a giant meta commentary. Like that's wow.
Yeah.
And it's like it's kind of a trip to see this movie and with all these different people in it, and for it to be like, in your experience, like, oh, I've never even like heard of this movie and all these people are in it. It like that feels like you're just stumbling
heard of this movie.
Okay. But it's like, it feels like you're stumbling across like some secret treasure chest you didn't know about, with like all these different people in it.
I knew about this movie because isn't it a very popular movie? Like everyone,
I don't know.
I feel like it is. I feel like I've heard tons of people talk about it before, but I just had never seen it, and I didn't know what it was about. It's just like something that I've heard of.
Yeah, I mean, I'd only seen it once in like college, and that was it. But like, I mean, to like rewatch it, and for like, I forgot that all these different celebrities were in this movie, and so like to see all that, it's like, whoa.
Yeah, it did surprise me how many cameos there were.
Yeah,
because they seemed like such a. I wasn't familiar with the director. Or, like, I didn't know who Jay and Silent Bob were. They were just two randos to me. So I thought it was like going to be like some random movie. And the fact that it was all these famous people I knew, I was like, wait a minute. Like,
Good Will Hunting too.
Right. Yeah. This is not at all what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was interesting. It was fun.
Yeah.
So what's the second one about?
Jay and Silent Bob reboot is probably just kind of the same thing, meta commentary about like reboots and sequels in Hollywood. Kevin Smith is like a very outspoken comic book nerd. He's
I love how you say outspoken and he has like no lines.
Yeah, no, but like in real life, he's a huge comic book nerd. He's a very cool guy. And he's part of different podcasts or like YouTube shows, like when the Screen Junkies were doing their like movie fights, like he would participate on that sometimes. He's a huge fan of movies and comic books, and like, it shows in the movies that he's made. And it's like, how many romantic comedies exist out there about a guy that like makes comic books.
Yeah. Silent Bob was my favorite character.
Yeah.
I loved him. And he does speak in the movie,
in this movie,
like
yeah.
twice. And every time it surprised me.
Yeah.
I was like, I forgot what his voice sounded like.
I was glad that he did speak in this movie. I wasn't 100% sure how much he spoke in this movie, because I think in like Dogma, he just says thanks at the end of the movie and that's it.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, I hope he like actually says something, and he did.
Mm-hmm. That's so funny.
Yeah.
I was literally like, when we were watching it, I was like, oh, it must be so nice to be cast in a movie with no lines. Like you just have to like make basically react with your face, and that's it.
Yeah.
But I didn't even realize, at that point when I said that, I didn't realize he was the whole director.
Yeah.
So that's probably better for him, because he can focus on directing and not, have to worry too much about also remembering lines.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was cool.
Yeah. Well, yeah, fun movie.
It was.
We talked about a variety of topics today.
I know. There was just so much packed into these two things.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, lot to comment on.
Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and do our assignment.
And we're always warning people against the internet and their own mental health. So
yeah, I mean, we're two psychologists. I feel like it's
Yeah,
ingrained in us to be like, protect yourself.
yeah, I can't help it.
Yeah.
We've too much psych education.
Yep. It's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
But then it also is a bad thing, because I feel like we're very self-aware people.
Mm-hmm.
And so to be self-aware and you're like, I recognize I'm doing this, but like, meh.
Yeah, being self-aware also means being like means being very self-critical sometimes too,
Mm-hmm.
because you're so in tune with yourself, and you can look at something and be like, this is not my best work. And then you just end up being really hard on yourself when somebody in a different body might not be, and getting by just fine. That's the downfall of being self-aware.
True.
It makes you self-conscious at the same time.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Anyway.
We just had like a little mini therapy.
Yeah.
Therapy
Segue into, what do we have planned for the next 4 weeks?
Woo! It is spooky season.
It is spooky season. I want to suck your blood. It's getting kind of hard to believe.
Things are going to get better. Anyways, we don't want copyright.
Yeah.
Jason Segel, we love you.
Yes.
Please be on our podcast.
Go check out Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
Who hasn't? If you guys haven't seen Forgetting Sarah Marshall, you don't belong here. I'm kidding.
Yeah, don't alienate all of our fans.
Are you saying all of them haven't seen Forgetting Sarah Marshall?
No.
Okay. Anyways, next month.
For the next 4 weeks.
Yes, this month is Halloween.
Yeah.
Month.
There you go.
And so
every day is Halloween.
A little quick backstory. I every year do an October movie marathon where I watch one Halloween movie every day in the month of October. And so I didn't want to not do that, but just because of this podcast, because it's an annual thing for me. It's this year 3 or 4 that I've done this. And so I proposed to you, why don't we just have our podcast things fit into this movie month? And so we divided this month into 4 themes. We'll talk about each theme as they come, but for this upcoming week, our theme is magic/witches.
It is?
Yes.
Magic/witches.
It's witches and magic.
Witches and magic.
Yeah.
Okay. Knowing what I picked, I mean...
You said it was very supernatural.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, supernatural... There's like
not,
zombies in it. There's like a haunted house.
That's not magic.
Well, you gave me a theme. I feel like it'll work. It'll be fine.
Okay.
No, it'll work. All there's
right.
There's like a demonic book. I think that counts.
All right. So that's what our week is. So I am assigning Parker to watch a great 80s movie called Teen Witch.
Okay. And I'm assigning you to watch The Evil Dead 2. Not the Evil Dead 1, the Evil Dead 2. You don't need to watch the Evil Dead 1 to watch Evil Dead 2. And Evil Dead 2 is the superior movie. I haven't even actually seen Evil Dead 1. I've seen the remake of Evil Dead, but no. This is Evil Dead 2. And just trust me, you are in for something special.
All right. There better be some magic in it.
We
literally sat down
magic.
and like thought this through.
We broke this down like 3 months ago.
Because I have to prepare early so I can create my schedule. So.
Of movies that you're going to watch for the month. Yeah. Well, no, this will work. Trust me. There's enough to apply to that theme, I think, in this movie. It'll be fine. Whatever. It doesn't matter. You'll enjoy the movie. It's too late to go back.
It is. Okay, so we have Evil Dead 2 and Teen Witch.
Yeah.
So we'll see you all next week for our first October week.
Spooky 22. We're workshopping that title.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
If we come up with like an official title for that, we'll put it in the episode.
Yeah, maybe we'll name these episodes like
Spooky Swap.
Yeah.
Spooky Swap.
Spooky Swap.
Oh my gosh. Content spooks.
Yeah, we gotta name it something different so that
Swap.
Folks know if they're not listening during during October.
Spooky Swap works.
Spooky Swap.
Welcome
I like
to
it.
Spooky Swap.
Spooky Swap.
That'll work.
We need like cool little like Halloween music.
Like da, 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 Spooky Swap.
Sure. We'll go with that. Yeah.
All right. See you then.
See ya. Bye.
Bye.